what I'm going to say, an inequipped leader who couldn't manage their teachers. That's not the Tinley way. That sounds like a leader that couldn't handle their teachers. And I don't know who it was. Don't really care. You said they're not there. I'm still there. And I'm telling you, that's not the Tinley way first. Also, but the beautiful thing about all of this is, right, when people talk about our suspensions and our discipline and our motto of college or die, that's the beautiful thing about choice. You make a choice to come to Tinley, right, with our, quote, petty discipline or whatever that the Tinley families do like. So those diehard Tinley families that are still there year after year who have children that might experience the same being kicked out, do stay because they believe and that's what they want. And that's the beautiful thing about choice. And I say it to everybody. This is our motto. This is what we believe will educate children of color or the children that come here. And if it doesn't fit with you, then let me help you find a school that's best for your choice. But we won't change our motto to try to fit every single parent. But there is a Tinley parent, just like there's a Vanguard parent. There will be a Believe parent and there's a Purdue Polytech parent. There's a Ignite parent. That's the beautiful thing about choice, that these families have choice. And if it doesn't work, then I can take my child or they can take their child to another school.
Oh, I agree. I just have to present both sides.
I was going to say that was an awesome politically correct way to defend that. Right. The reality is they're on the special education side specifically, and then the exclusionary discipline. I think there are two different topic strands going on here. But on the special education side, we have less resources. The reality is a larger district or a larger machine per se has more resources. Most independent charter schools don't have a life skills class. That's the reality. And I, as a high school leader, I'm not going to lie to a parent and say that I have a room set up with a refrigerator and an oven and a stove that's going to teach your child how to do life skills, because we don't have the resources to do that. So I do think it would be dishonest of me not to acknowledge that on the special education side, charters still have some things to figure out because we don't have all of the resources that the districts have to serve our kids equally. So there are some kids that we are not able to serve in the best way because of resources, not because we don't want to, not because we don't love all our babies. I have cousins that have Down syndrome and autism. So personally, I get it, but we don't have the resources to serve them the same way that a public another district would have on the SPED side. On the exclusionary discipline side, I think we do have to recognize at some point that 3 weeks out of school is not serving anyone. And I do believe that as the charter sector has evolved and grown, we are recognizing that exclusionary discipline is hurting Black and brown children. And I hope Tinley, as well as our other exclusionary discipline models in the city, are starting to get on board with the fact that we've got to figure out ways to keep our kids in school and not putting them out.
And there are a lot of students, unfortunately, with IEPs who end up in the charter world. And I think what's happening is a lot of our students with IEPs, some of those issues are behavioral issues. And that's the problem. Right. And so that's the problem. That's where the concern comes, because then you send them back to the district school or IPS, and so they're saying, well, you don't want to deal with those most difficult kids who have behavior issues, not necessarily from a special education, the SPED piece, but the behavior piece, and that's where the issues come in. So we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to come back and finish this conversation. You are tuned into Let's Go There with Cassandra, where we are talking about the impact of school choice for students of color. We'll be right back.
Family and Community Partners, LLC, is a private, community-based mental health care provider located at 3921 North Meridian Street, Suite 210, Indianapolis, Indiana. Formed in 2012, the partner clinicians of FCP have over 150 years of experience servicing at-risk youth and families throughout Marion County and Central Indiana. Family and Community Partners, LLC, partners with families and communities to deliver smart, sophisticated, and kind services to the least of these across Indiana. For more information about Family and Community Partners, visit them at familyandcommunitypartners.com or contact them at 317-252-5258.
When you have a growing family, other things in your life start getting bigger too, like your home.
Can't wait for the new deck! What?
And especially your bills.
That'll be $249.86.
Oh.
But with Allstate, The amount you can save is getting bigger too. Because right now, when you bundle coverage for your car, home, motorcycle, and more, you can save up to 30%.
Call Adrian Smiley today at 317-228-0707.
Have you ever experienced the stress of dealing with a loved one during a disability or seen the chaos after the death of someone who's died? Well, Norton Estate Planning and Elder Law Firm specializes in helping guide families through such traumatic events. They're committed to helping individuals create a personalized estate plan that meets their expectations. The firm is comprised of individuals that believe in education, maintenance, and collaboration. They believe that estate planning should focus on providing you with a plan that reflects who you are, maximizes your control during life, protects you and your wishes in the event of a disability, and provides the instructions for carrying out your legacy at your death. If you're in need of wills, trust, power of attorney, guardianship assistance, Medicaid services, or probate administration, contact their office today at 317-572-8696 or visit their website at www.estateplanners.org. Norton Estate Planning and Elder Law Firm is committed to protecting your dignity and securing your legacy.
Okay, we are back. You are tuned in to Let's Go There with Cassandra, where we are talking about the impact of school choice for students of color. We are having a very good, healthy debate, and I am so loving it because y'all are on fire and bringing it today. Before we went to break, we were talking about, what were we talking about? We didn't talk about so much during commercial. What was we talking about? Discipline. Yes, discipline and the perception that charters cannot handle those students with the most behavior issues. So, David, you said you wanted to chime back in and say something. I was not coming for you, just by the way. I just wanted to tell you. I just had to share my experience of what happened.
Yep, and
you know you my brother, and I love you.
I love you, too. And I had a good friend of mine that told me I need to calm down. So, India, this is me calm. I am calm now. No, the discussion came about because, I think with Tinley, and I think any other school that had a similar discipline policy as Tinley, like we are evolving. Everybody knows we had a hair policy. Since
hair
gone,
policy? What was that?
Where they couldn't have braids or dreads. This is some years ago, right? So we've evolved from that. Some of the disciplines that you talked about, we've evolved. But I go back to the same thing. When you have leaders that develop and train teachers appropriately to educate not just, I say, students of color, but students that have difficulties with behavior. That's what it boils down to, because it sounds like in a lot of these situations that students are being suspended for talking back and things like that. Well, that is a teacher who's not equipped to handle that in the classroom, and that's a leader's job to train and teach that. So where we've adjusted our discipline, I think the main focus we put in is how we develop and train teachers. So when we onboard teachers, we let them know these are the type of scholars that we have, right? That may mouth back because that might be what they do at home, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatnot. But how do we manage that, right? How do we educate them on the right way to be? How do we educate them how to be scholars, right? So that's where it boils down to. You can change your policy all you want, but if you have a teacher that's not prepared to handle those students and just sends them out, they may not be suspended, but they're kicking them out of class and still losing instruction.
And then that kind of goes back to what we talked about last week in terms of equity. The reality of it is we have young white teachers in our classrooms who are not prepared to deal with our students. You want to say something about that, Marshall?
No, not us.
No, you're different. Talk about your makeup.
I mean, we are 90% African American, 10% Latinx in terms of our staff. It was always a goal of ours to make sure that our staff reflected the school population that we were serving, the neighborhood that we were serving. Same for the board. It's extremely diverse. And then we have a policy that 60% of our vendors have to be women or minority-owned businesses so that we are being good citizens to our neighborhood and that we reflect our neighborhood. So
that's awesome.
So I want to add, because I'm actually really excited about some of the work that our schools are doing in restorative practices. And I know that I've learned a lot over the years about them, but kind of biting off of some things that I've learned from Kim about culture and approach to discipline. Like we're a relational people of color. We're big on relationships and relationships work. And I think that we've adopted this colonized mindset of what it looks like to this high need for control and not giving people autonomy over their choices. And so our school is big on school choice. My school's slightly different. We're diverse by design. So we're purposely bringing together different cultures to learn together. We know that's what the world will look like. But one of the things that really excites me about it is some of my kids from dominant culture are able to extend some of their privilege that they have, and their families are extending that. And they're really just learning from each other. And it's a really beautiful thing. But we, so it's, and back to what David said, it starts with your teachers need to be trained in implicit bias. They need to confront their bias. They need to undo their racism, because we're an inherently racist society, that has just had practices and systems that, like you said before, were not meant for students of color. And so that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is just this idea that you can build relationships, you can build a positive culture. And I'll tell you, in the suburban schools, those kids are living their best lives, and us trying to replicate jails for students of color is, again, an awful thing to do, and something that I'm really proud of, knowing a lot of the leaders of color in the charter industry, that we're changing that narrative. We're disrupting those cycles, and that is something to be applauded, because we're doing it quickly and rapidly.
Yes.
Going back to your idea of the rowboat, we said, oh wait, we're not going to prepare kids. It wasn't a rowboat, but whatever. Speedboat. row your boat. But the idea of, like, I'm not preparing kids for prison. I'm preparing them to be CEOs. I'm preparing my girls to be CEOs and boss ladies, and like we were talking about earlier, like sometimes kids are getting, I'll get off my soapbox in a minute, but sometimes girls are getting in trouble for having a mouth. I have a mouth too. You just have to figure out how to use it in a productive way.
Yeah, and that's huge, because we all know that school to prison pipeline is real. Although we have some politicians in this city in top places who their comment was, if it exists. Oh no, it exists. I'm not going to call them out, but yeah, we had somebody running for an office, mayor, who said if it exists, and it does exist. And we do know that when they build jails, they look at the achievement gap, the achievement of third grade black boys in public schools when they decide how much money they're going to dump into the criminal justice system. We're going to move on to the next question. What are the benefits of school choice for students and parents? Marshall, what are the benefits of school choice for students and parents?
I think there's a multitude, but I think chief amongst them is the opportunity to find the best fit for you. As David alluded to earlier, that may not be the model for you. And so being able to really shop around and figure out, okay, this is my child's learning style. This is my child's personality. These are the challenges that my child has. And so what school is going to be able to address those things effectively? And so you have the opportunity to really put your scholar in position for success. Okay. So.
Kim, you want to add anything to that?
No, I agree. I think one of the things that I see as a lack of opportunity within our traditional systems is that we don't have enough seats generally for gifted and talented. That's missing in our traditional systems. And if you go to our more fluent systems, if a student is above and beyond, they have an opportunity to be pushed. Unfortunately, in systems that serve children that look like me, that is not often the case. So something I'm passionate about in regards to school choices, parents can say, hey, I know that the traditional model isn't going to fit what my child needs. And that's what I'm excited about in my new endeavor with Believe, is offering an option that parents can say, hey, I know a traditional school or a traditional high school model isn't going to be what's best for my student. The autonomy and agency that you guys are providing for students is what my advanced child needs. And that doesn't exist currently.
Now, you're new to the city, correct? You had a school in Chicago?
Yeah, I opened a school about 10 years ago that was college or die, as David said. Tinley is modeled after Noble Network in Chicago. Noble started about 20 years ago and is the highest performing charter high school network in the country. And Mushin, my first high school in Chicago, is still 10 years later in the top 5 high schools in the city of Chicago, which I'm super excited about and proud of, but it is college or die, and it is super rigid, and it does have exclusionary discipline. It is evolving, as most charter networks are, but it did not provide the agency and autonomy that our students need long-term to be successful, and that's something that I'm excited about changing in my new iteration.
Yeah, that college or dies. I just hate, even when I visited Tinley, not to beat up on Tinley, but
why?
Well, not the philosophy. It was just the thought that it was a military, like the kids looked like they were in the military.